On December 4th and 5th, we're going to have a full moon in Gemini, a lunation that asks us to look beneath the noise, to quiet the mind so we can really listen, and to confront the stories we tell ourselves, especially the fear-based ones, my friends. Now, this is a lunation I'm very excited to talk about. I'm a Gemini moon, so hello. But for those of you who have not seen my recent forecast, the December forecast, which I put out a couple of days ago because this lunation is happening at the very beginning of December. So I always put my forecasts out just before the month begins. And I talked a lot about this lunation in that video. Probably more than I should have, because usually I like to save some of the meat and potatoes of the transits for these bigger videos that I put out throughout the month. So after you watch this, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to my work, go watch that one right after. You can go right to the timestamps and you can find the Gemini full moon part and you can watch that. I think it's probably 15 minutes long. So that all being said, I do have a lot more notes, of course, to go through for this lunation. But as always, I can't promise how long or short this episode will be, even though many of you who hear me utter those words at the beginning of all of my episodes here, I usually do yap for a long time. But that being said, we're going to do our best today, or I'm going to do my best today, to cruise through this lunation, to offer as much insight as possible, and of course to give you the reasons why I even brought up already some words around fear and even just this idea of needing to get calmer or the noise. What is the noise that is going to be surrounding us? What do we need to find within ourselves to bring us a state of calm? Now, when I talk about the Decan and the tarot card correspondence, as I always do for my lunation videos, this all makes sense because we are dealing with a particular part of Gemini, the second Decan of Gemini, in fact, that very much can cause this particular type of lunation to be very noisy. And noisy in a very mental sense, okay? In a very external sense as well, where there could be things happening in our immediate surroundings, possibly, or if you're very sensitive maybe to the collective bullshit that's going on around the world, like there might be things or events that maybe get a little bit out of control that can affect us. But again, I want to always bring you back to the Gemini whole sign house in your chart, because really, no matter what's going on in the world, the narrow focus of where Gemini is in your life, that whole sign house, that is where the story is playing out. And there is a part of us in that whole sign house that is very mental and is very mercurial, of course. And then, of course, wherever Mercury is in your birth chart plays a direct link to the story of Gemini for you. So you always have to look to see where Mercury is in your chart to kind of put that puzzle piece together or that link together. And then, of course, wherever Mercury is transiting in the sky right now can also give us more clues on themes of life and circumstances and situations that can reveal maybe further information around what the full moon, in this case, wants to show us. Now, I think I'm going to just jump right in to talking about the Decan and tarot card and then kind of go from there, offer some reflections we can have on this full moon. Because like I said, my November forecast, I really just went for it and I literally just put it out. And I think a lot of my regular viewers probably already saw it. But the Decan that we're talking about here is the second Decan of Gemini, ruled by Mars, okay? And the Nine of Swords in the tarot. Now, what's interesting about this combination is that I have in my notes the theme written around this, okay? So the theme is this Gemini full moon reveals the truth behind your thoughts, exposing the fear-based narratives, missing information, and unspoken realities that need clarity so you could move forward with a cleaner mind. Now, I'm going to talk on and off about Mars ruled Decan, the Nine of Swords, how this all plays into a lot of different things. But we have to understand that Gemini is ruled by Mercury. This is the sign of movement, curiosity, multiplicity. It gathers data, makes connections, and follows threads of insight wherever they lead. Gemini's gift is the ability to hold duality, two truths, two paths, two perspectives, without needing immediate resolution. So with this Gemini full moon, illumination through information, revelations through conversations, and clarity emerging from threads that finally weave together. But again, we're dealing with a Mars ruled Decan and the Nine of Swords in the tarot. So Mars ruled Decans always have this energy of aggression, movement, of course, passion, will, assertiveness. There can be an anger to it. There could be a chaos to Mars. So when we talk about this second decan of Gemini with a full moon here, and we all know the image of the Nine of Swords, okay? The Nine of Swords is that person that is sitting up in that bed. They are restless. They are anxiety ridden. They are thinking about 1,000 things at once. I mean, boy, have I been there. And as a Gemini moon, I feel it is a constant navigation of my inner world and my mind and how I experience reality. And I always have to be sure that I'm feeling my feelings rather than thinking them first, right? Or sometimes you need to think before you can feel proper, right? I mean, we're human. We're run constantly by psychology, but the nature of a Gemini moon, for example, is to think and to overthink and to obsess maybe at times and to just very, very much be analytical. And if anyone's born with their moon here, for example, I'm not, but if you were, there could be a tendency in one's inner world experience to be more chaotic in their obsessions and their anxieties, you know? So the Nine of Swords and Mars together, this revealing moment that we're going to have for the full moon is going to want us to dive deeper underneath the noise of that chaos, underneath the noise of those anxieties. And this is going to be, I think, a full moon of revealing what is overwhelming you, what intrusive narratives are unfolding, where is there too much information colliding with each other, where is there truth versus the spin of information, the spin of psychological despair, maybe, for some of you. This can also be the battlefield for ideas for some people as well. So we can't look at this as a completely negative thing. Mars in this particular realm of Gemini can also just be thinking about 1,000 things or working through a lot of different options, all for the sake of making a great choice, for coming up with a great idea or a great solution. And I think a lot of us could be going through that as well right now, especially while Mercury has been retrograde for the past month. Okay, so we had a pre-shadow for Mercury begin October 21st. The actual retrograde cycle literally happened all through November. And Mercury is going direct now in Scorpio, approaching a position where it will reactivate grand water trines and getting closer to a position where the new moon in Scorpio happened, where Mercury had a cazimi with the new moon while retrograde, of course. So this full moon is happening in Gemini while Mercury is still transiting in Scorpio for you. So again, where is that Scorpio theme of life for you? What did that retrograde bring up? Because there could actually be a link to the Gemini part of your life that also plays a role into the Scorpio nature of what events have maybe been unfolding for you. So full moons always reveal to us, by the way, something that was once hidden. So that's my rule of thumb really for full moons. And full moons to me are always moments of closure or culmination as well. So there is an ending quality to full moons, whether this is just simply intuitive or just simply a recognition that, wow, there is something I was revealed here, and now there's a whole new chapter I need to put to bed, and there's something new that I need to focus on or understand, so there is this culmination. And to me, I'm kind of just getting a vision of an orchestra and there's this crescendo happening right now. And the crescendo is that highest point. It is the most loud and intense point of the classical musical piece. And before you know it, it starts to diminish and there is calm again. So I feel this full moon is kind of like that in a way. So we really have to just understand the nature of a Mars ruled Decan like this, the nature of the Nine of Swords, generally speaking. And this is why linking the Decans and the tarot correspondences are so useful, because, I could just reflect on my own life and go, wow, yeah, there's a lot that I have been like very mentally overstimulated with in the last month or so. And there's a lot going on in that Gemini part of my life as well, where there's an intensity behind how I'm interacting, even with my inner world, because my moon is very much in the crosshairs here. So interpretive notes for maybe some of the things we could experience while this lunation is unfolding. Mars adds agitation, so we may feel a little uncomfortable, obviously, argumentative, restless, anxious while we're navigating this culmination as we get to the full moon even. There's revelations that can move very fast for us as we're navigating maybe the noise of stuff. And I think this could also be a great full moon for disclosure, research, studying, and releasing mental burden. So again, this idea of really getting to the root cause of things and understanding the nature of what it is that is overwhelming you. So again, this is a time to investigate. And that Scorpio Mercury transit, I think, could also provide to be useful for some of that as well. This investigative nature to Mercury in Scorpio, which is going to have a whole other story, by the way, as it gets closer to the end degrees of Scorpio again, when it reactivates the grand water trines, because there's going to be, I just think, another flood of psychic downloads, emotional conversations, things that are very intense on an emotional level, and even a psychic intuitive level. And Mercury, the mind and the communicator, of course, and the data transfer, energy of Mercury. This is where we kind of get the clarity furthermore on a lot of the stuff that maybe the Mercury retrograde brought us, So I hope all of this makes sense, my friends, because Mercury very much is a sign that wants to get data. It wants to understand things. It's curious. It wants to cut through the noise and constantly move forward. It's like the sly fox that just never ends, moving around and making sure it could make the correct choices and the right steps, and then also just be free to explore a little bit. And when we get into these moments of chaos and these moments where we are really dealing with a lot of noise and there's a lot of even negative self-talk, like here's some things I have in my notes: the mind in overdrive, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, fear loops, insomnia, imagining worst case outcomes. This is a card, the Nine of Swords, right? And with Mars involved, a card of mental tension that dissolves when faced with truth. So there is truth here. And when we get to that truth, that's when I think the dust settles. That's when we learn how to sink into samadhi. This is how we learn how to come strictly into the realm of pure consciousness. And I'm just using some like meditative terms here to kind of put into context. Like, it's when you first sit down to meditate, you're fucking going crazy, right? And then you learn how to calm the mind. And when you learn how to calm yourself, that's when we can hear the truth a little bit more. And this is where I think the moon will reveal something. So I would say the more we can meditate into calm in that part of our life and take a breather, take a break. If we're aware of what's keeping us up at night, it's almost like put it to rest for a minute. Put it to rest for a minute. And believe it or not, if we even look to the new moon that happened in May, that new moon in Gemini happened, let me see if I have it in my notes, May 26th, 2025. That new moon happened in the first decan, which is a Jupiter ruled decan, which is ruled by the Eight of Swords. And I said, like, hey, there's going to be a seeding moment here that could culminate by the full moon, even though I don't necessarily play that game where all the new moons seed something that will manifest by the full moon. But that new moon was that was a very important new moon as far as the stories that we imprison ourselves with, right? So that Eight of Swords card is where we're kind of bound. And to me, that is mental entrapment is a huge phrase for the Eight of Swords. Like, what are we doing to imprison our own self? Like, what are we telling ourselves to keep us in our own prison? Now, this full moon is showing us the next card over, right? Where we're kind of stirring over the anxiety and the choices we need to make so we can get to calm, right? So there is this element of tracking maybe that new moon to this full moon, if you can remember what your intentions were or what you were trying to seed. Because I feel coming from a feeling of mental entrapment and mental imprisonment to now just dealing with the chaos and the noise of maybe everything that has followed from then, and not to say all of our Gemini whole sign houses have been in utter chaos ever since then, but we did have Uranus just go there as well. So Uranus came in this summer and literally shocked us in that Gemini part of our life. And now we are dealing with a little bit of the aftermath since Uranus has gotten back into Taurus, but we've been dealing with a little bit of the aftermath of what Uranus shocked us with. So we have more options, I think, on the table. We have more intuitive understandings or more anxiety and overwhelm and just overstimulation in that Gemini whole sign house. And whether for positive or negative, right now, this culmination with the Mercury retrograde, right? Because that's where the ruler of this new moon is, like we were just saying before. This particular full moon can be the moment we need to learn how to become more calm and meditative so the truth can come to the surface. And then as we navigate into the winter, into the spring, when Uranus gets back into Gemini, as we approach another new moon in Gemini, we can have a much better understanding of that whole sign house in your chart, the Gemini part of your life. And please share with me where Gemini is in your birth chart. Share with me anything that might have been revealed to you, even with Uranus's brief entrance into Gemini. And please let me know anything you would like. Please share with me anything you would like to. I love reading your comments and your stories. So again, whatever you feel you would like to share, even if you would like to share anything with the new moon in Scorpio that we just had, the ruler of this full moon, and and how the retrograde story might even play in to this full moon here. Now, before I continue, my friends, I just would like to say, if you're enjoying this video thus far and you would like to support the channel and my work, it would mean a lot if you could consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video. All that stuff really helps the channel's growth here. And if anybody is interested in booking readings with me, I do have some slots left for December. They will go quick. I mean, as soon as we get to the first couple of days of December here, I mean, bookings really kind of sell out pretty quickly. So if you're looking to get a personalized one-on-one Zoom reading with me, and we can get you all like oiled up, if you will, for the new year to begin and kind of look ahead 12 months. And again, and really just to like talk about whatever you want. My readings are really amazing conversations between me and my clients, and we intuitively get to the heart of whatever it is that you wish to talk about. And then also my Decan's course is available for pre-order. So you can click links down below and learn all about that. It's going to be self-paced, pre-recorded, and then I'm going to meet with all of the students that sign up week to week for live streams for about 4 to 5 weeks. So then we can hang out, talk about the course, do Q&A about whatever you want as well. So yeah, that all being said, that's all I have for my little plug there. And I just want to offer some further reflections on what this full moon could reveal to us. Okay, my friends, just a few more closing insights here on this full moon in Gemini. And I just want to go over a few things that I feel could be revealed to us. Okay, maybe more specifically, if I didn't already ramble on enough already, but I just want to go through a little checklist I have here, and you can reflect deeply throughout the course of the next couple of days before this lunation occurs and see where you can release some of this stuff that we talk about. Where can you let go? You know, sometimes full moons to me could be just a simple moment of understanding we need to let go of old stories. Simply, we could do astrological magic and rituals where we are looking to kind of purge and cleanse so we can begin a new cycle of some kind, because full moons reveal something that was once hidden, and then we need to deal with it. You know, we need to conclude something, we need to release it, we need to come up with our next plan of action, maybe, you know. So what the full moon could reveal, okay? The story you've been telling yourself versus what's actually true. So Gemini, the second decan of Gemini, loves to lay the scripts that are running unchecked, you know, the wild thoughts and ideas that are just running rampant and wild. You know, Mars just loves to cause chaos sometimes, and it's very fast-paced and aggressive, and that could be really, really good to figuring out what we can do. It's very fast-paced, but sometimes that exposes where the mind has been spinning a narrative that doesn't match reality. So we really have to be clear on where there could be some illusions even. And I think even Mercury in Scorpio has been proving to churn up a little bit about what's real and what's not real, you know, getting to the heart of truth in a scorpionic sense. And that new moon was very much falling in a decan as well, a Venus ruled decan ruled by the Seven of Cups, which definitely does deal with illusion and reality. So there is something about deconstructing a fear-based story that we're going to have to navigate, okay? Hidden anxieties, worries, or assumptions you've been suppressing. So again, there could be things that are buried beneath the surface. So there's very much going to be things that are buried beneath the surface that are now starting to reveal themselves to you. So any avoided conversation or unspoken concern tends to surface. What was internal becomes external, sometimes through slips, confessions, or clarity. So these clarifying moments we have, whether with ourselves, whether when we read a book, whether we're watching a YouTube video and all of a sudden like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense, or something, you know, a conversation we have. So we are going to be reminded of things that we're suppressing. We're going to be reminded possibly of things that we've been ignoring and keeping hidden. And that's kind of like when you see the image of the Nine of Swords, it's like person that's up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. Like when you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., you could be thinking about some shit that happened in second grade, you know, or grammar school. Or it's just something you're ignoring all day long, consistently day after day. And it just kind of comes up in the middle of the night, and we have to learn how to deal with it. And this could just be more revealing around that. And there's a positive calm and truth beneath all of it. And that's kind of what I want you guys to understand. This isn't all negative and chaos. This is just about overcoming a moment where we have been dealing with some very heavy retrograde activity. I mean, Saturn and Neptune have been retrograde for months. Jupiter is now retrograde. We just had a crazy, intense Mercury retrograde, you know, that is finally, we're coming out of that. Mercury is now in an integration phase. So this full moon is part of that story. Now, what is good about all this chaos and all this retrograde stuff is that it's going to set us up for everything to really be in direct motion by February and March, because Jupiter will be the last outer planet to go retrograde. Okay. Traditional outer planets being Jupiter and Saturn. And when we get to March, that is when Jupiter goes direct. Saturn and Neptune will be direct already. Mercury is not retrograde. There are no other retrogrades in the sky. And we are dealing with all this retrograde shit right now for a reason. And the Gemini part of your life now is under the microscope. So information that you needed but didn't know you were missing can also come to the surface. So these are those psychic insights that just activate. And we have to deal with them now. You know, it's like, oh shit, this is in front of me now. This is new information I didn't have before. Now I have to kind of deal with it, and I have to make decisions on what I'm going to do. How am I going to calm this down? How am I going to get to the heart of the truth of the details here. So you might actually be surprising perspectives that kind of just hit you and maybe solve the problem. So again, we're connecting the dots here to a lot of different storylines that are playing out. And I think that's something we need to note, maybe in a more positive sense, that we could really just be on a mission to connect the dots through chaos. And then boom, the truth and clarity comes, and the multiple webs of storylines playing out in the sky right now all play a role in some way, shape, or form, in my opinion. So the Nine of Swords can also reveal self-inflicted stress, the loops that keep you stuck. Okay. And that new moon in Gemini with the Eight of Swords rulership back in May, there was a similar storyline playing out there. So we're kind of just like perpetuating a cycle with the new moon and the full moon now, where the mental patterns can be sucking the life force from us. So again, it just, I mean, I want to say that we're going to be dealing maybe with a little bit more chaos and noise than we are any sort of positive revelation. But I mean, there will be positive revelations through anything if we are investigating deep enough into the stories. So I just think as we're leading up to this full moon, this is when we have the clarity. This is when we have these next couple of days to really sink into, like, what isn't mine? You know, like, what do you need to release? What am I overthinking? What are you overthinking that can be released right now? What are you putting upon yourself that you don't need to? Like, where are you being ridiculous? And where is there actual, like, things that need to be dealt with? Like, where's the reality here versus all the stuff maybe you could be making up in your mind that you're keeping yourself still imprisoned to, like that Eight of Swords energy. Okay. So another potential revelation here, a shift in perspective that changes the whole narrative. So again, it could be as simple for some really great advice and mindset work. Try to see where there could be a shift in your perspective in all the chaos. And that can literally be the one thing that changes everything. So once a key detail is illuminated, maybe that's when the whole situation reorganizes itself and you can learn how to calm down and go to bed at night, maybe more sound. This lunation tends to deliver aha moments, potentially, that rearrange understanding. So if you can shift your perspective, which I think is good advice, anytime, that can always lead to us to sink into a new energy and a new emotion, and how we can make our mind kind of dance better with just our nervous system, you know? So it could be simple as that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. Maybe a couple of reflection questions. What thought or storyline has been taking up most of your mental space lately? Where are you believing something without checking the facts? What are you avoiding saying or asking that needs clarifying? So what do you avoid saying? Do you need to say something? Is your throat chakra blocked? You know, like, we need to get maybe more honest with ourselves and maybe with those around us. Because I'm not discounting that there's maybe not other people or other situations involved here. Because communication is important. But the communication with ourselves is the most important. Okay? What fear keeps replaying in your mind? Reflect on that. And what real world action would actually address it? So that's also very, very important. What information have you received recently that can change your perspective? Is there anything that you have received that may be the solution and you're just not recognizing it because you're still stuck in a loop of some kind? Now, I think that might be all I want to say today, my friends. I really do hope this helped you. Now, let's always remember, full moons reveal something that was once hidden. So there is something that you've been ignoring, or something that is just unconscious, and something that is not being directly addressed in reality. And when things are hidden, we sometimes can be surprised. We sometimes can be, relieved, of course, as well. So in this particular lunation, something is definitely hidden. And what is hidden is definitely definitely has something to do with the realms of the stress and the anxieties we feel. Now, I would say again, look to what Mercury retrograde has been all about for you, and also look to the Gemini whole sign house, and also look to any storylines that Uranus maybe has already brought up with its brief entrance into Gemini, because there is a lot that's going to change in the Gemini whole sign house theme of life in our charts. And this full moon needs to be addressed and calmed. So there is a solution somewhere, and you need to find it. Now, if you feel overburdened and overwhelmed, I would suggest doing some rituals involving releasing and purging and visualizing the state of calm. I would even maybe read some Buddhist passages in learning how to calm the mind, to be more mindful. If you can practice a little bit of mindfulness in some way, shape, or form, that can allow you to be more present. Because this isn't a moment where a lot of us are very present. I mean, I'm even having trouble, to be honest with you. And I feel my Zazen, Zen Buddhist meditation is very much an important life raft for me right now, because it helps me stay calm and centered and aligned, and it helps me navigate my life in a very Zen way. Okay. And I'm not saying Zen in this new age way where everybody throws away around the word Zen left and right. Zen philosophy in the Buddhist and the Japanese and Chinese culture is living moment to moment, and every act you do is a form of interacting with the great void source, God in the Western sense, potentially, and how we can come to life and really see things and feel things and think things clearly, no matter how stressful things can be. So this Mars ruled Decan, 9 of Swords, full moon illumination, needs a little bit of Zazen meditation, needs a little bit of mindfulness and present moment awareness. And through that practice, we should be able to get to the heart of the truth, even if it's painful. Okay? Because all these transits we've been experiencing, this is all leading up. This is all like groundwork that can only help us for when all of the outer planets lock themselves into their new signs. Saturn and Neptune in Aries, Uranus back into Gemini. When Jupiter gets into Leo next year, we're going to have all outer planets in fire signs and air signs. So those who are not doing the work, those who are not showing up for themselves, most importantly, because if you don't show up for yourself, you're not going to help a goddamn thing or person out there. You're going to continue to fall and drown and drown and drown. And that is just the reality. So for those of you who are here with me on this journey, I'm trying my best to help you through the way that I see the astrology, the way that I interpret this on a very psycho-spiritual level, in a very magical sense, a very esoteric way. Because I think the esoteric nature of astrology, the tarot, etc., and the Decans, for example, can very much point us to the specifics of how we can evolve and transform our lives and our psyches and our emotions and our spiritual development. And this is what is preparing us all for the future. And this lunation is just one other one that's right here in front of our face that we need to acknowledge in a really, really big way. So that all being said, that's all I have for you, my friends. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.